piece of art is something which can hold endless meanings and interpretations. We can all look at the same piece and experience something different or similar, and it's this concept which I came to explore after identifying the piece which I will discuss tonight. In the Scottish National Gallery, I came across a piece which, through my research, I discovered had been on an intriguing journey since its creation. Made in 1627 by the Dutch Golden Age painter Frans Hals, this is a portrait of Peter Verdonck. When I first saw this piece, I was walking through the Scottish National Gallery, and despite being amazed by all the works on display, nothing particularly caught my attention. I've always loved art, though I've been drawn to more modern styles. Therefore, I was beginning to think that traditional art perhaps just wasn't for me. Then I saw Verdonck. Immediately, I was struck by the intensity of the character in front of me. I wanted to know more about him, perhaps even meet him, as the spark in his eyes, the grin hidden behind the moustache, and the fact that he was willing to be posed in such a humorous way hugely intrigued me. Hals was born in the Netherlands, though moved to Haarlem where he lived and spent most of his career. Now, this is an important influence on his style as an artist, as most of his work was created in his studio in Haarlem, where people were to go to him to be painted instead of him moving around like most other artists. I can understand Hals' talent due to this, as he's capable of producing such intensely realistic paintings of these sitters, studied in the confinements of his studio. To me, Hals' main talent was his ability to create this vitality through the medium of paint, capturing the essence or life force of his subjects. As a Golden Age painter, Hals' talent was, to some extent, obscured by the work of his more popular contemporary Rembrandt. However, paintings by both of these artists are placed next to each other in the Scottish National Gallery, and it was the work of Hals which I was drawn to, not the other, more successful artist. This self-portrait by Rembrandt is one of his pieces which are positioned next to Hals' Verdonck. While this conveys Rembrandt's immense talent as an artist, it creates a stern and very serious atmosphere, something which is quite in contrast to Hals' overwhelmingly lively and, more notably, humorous atmosphere in his work. This characteristic style of Hals is unique and makes a huge impact even now, so I can only imagine the reaction to such a humorous and satirical piece at that time, where people were more concerned with being painted in a way which would make them seem respectable. While studying this piece, I wanted to consider the way in which Hals was able to convey the character of his sitter, which instantly struck me. He portrays the sitter as someone who is eccentric and bold, made immediately clear to us through the composition and pose of this piece. Hals uses his skills cleverly to allow my attention to be drawn to the elements which create his comical effect. I can see this where Hals has adopted his characteristic use of daylight and a silvery sheen to highlight the almost theatrical moustache of the man, something which intrigued me as I wondered whether this was concealing a grin or a smirk. In addition to this, Hals uses visible brushstrokes, one of his most recognised and effective techniques, which allow a focus on the eyes, which convey a spark, or, to use a Scottish expression, gallousness. Only when all of these techniques come together is Hals' comical style epitomised. I can see this flamboyant man with his unkempt hair, moustache, and questioning look in his eyes, who seems to be proudly brandishing a jawbone as if it is a weapon. This deepened understanding that I can draw of the sitter is something which I feel is purely made possible due to Hals' skills as an artist. However, in my study of the portrait, it became apparent to me that Hals' work has not always been as appreciated as it is now. In the 19th century, dramatic and quite tragic changes were made to the piece, which completely transformed the atmosphere of it, as well as appearing to alter the meaning behind the work. It is this transformation which exemplifies the way in which this painting is able to evoke different opinions, as due to the changes made, the painting became something completely different from what the artist originally intended. Although I researched into it, I found no answer as to who was responsible for these alterations. However, this element of mystery only intrigued me more. Interestingly, the changes were made around the same time that Hals began to be more followed and appreciated as an artist, after not being notably popular in the period in which he worked. The Impressionists in particular were extremely influenced by Hals, as their main characteristics were based on visible brushstrokes similar to that of him. Therefore, I believe that the person who made these changes was perhaps dissatisfied with the increased recognition that Hals was beginning to receive, and that the alterations made could have been an attempt to make his style seem less bold and iconic. In order to come to a conclusion as to why this piece was tampered with, I felt that I had to consider what changes were made. In place of the jawbone, which the sitter was previously holding, he's been transformed to be holding a wine glass, and a berry has been added, which attracts attention from his untidy hair. Although his pose and expression remain the same, I was forced to have a completely different opinion of him. The changes seem to be making a mockery of Verdonck, where previously he seemed deliberately and cleverly humorous, as he chose to allow the painter to convey him in that way. He's transformed to just look foolish. As far as I'm concerned, the removal of the jawbone drains the painting both of life and of humour. My transformed interpretation of the painting only allows the significance of the jawbone on the piece as a whole to be exemplified. It is speculated to be the jawbone of a cow, symbolic of that of an ass, which the biblical character of Samson used to slay 1,000 men. I feel that it's vital to know that this piece was created as a tronie, a style of portraiture where the sitter was supposed to remain unidentified, so that all our attention is drawn to their dramatic expression. The fact that I can gain such a deep level of knowledge on the sitter purely from the way in which he's presented to us by Hals, and without actually knowing who he is, demonstrates Hals' talent as an artist. Investigating the portrait of Verdonck further, I discovered that an etching made by Jan van de Velde was discovered, and this led to the revelation of who the sitter was. The etching includes an inscription which translates, "This is Verdonck, the bold guest whose jawbone attacks everyone. By not distinguishing between high or low born, he landed in the workhouse." Verdonck was said to be an almost infamous character in Haarlem, as he is known for being loud-mouthed and aggressive. Therefore, when Verdonck raises the jawbone, I assume that this is a representation of his own mouth, and a way in which his cutting words acted as a weapon against society. This demonstrates the intense realism of Hals' work, as he's capable of conveying such a bold message through painting. In my opinion, the overall impact of this piece is of an extremely humorous, almost satirical piece. Therefore, I believe it is this, above all else, which resulted in changes being made. Hals demonstrates his humorous and notably clever style in the way in which he conveys this seemingly aggressive character in an over-the-top and comical way. This leads to the artist creating the idea of him mocking those who took offence to Verdonck's verbal attacks, as he himself believed that Verdonck was not a character to be taken lightly, though was still someone who could laugh at himself. To me, the relationship between Hals and Verdonck seems intense. Quite evidently, Verdonck felt affectionately towards Hals, as he allows Hals to paint him in such a humorous way. The pose of the sitter creates a depiction of him experiencing a moment of triumph, as he proudly raises his arm. However, I feel that this also mirrors the personal triumph experienced by Hals, as he broke the boundaries of traditional Golden Age portraiture. The altered version of this painting was presented to the Scottish National Gallery in 1916, where it was named the Topper. It was not until 1928 that Dr. Martin de Wilde made extra examinations on this piece, allowing him to judge the authenticity of the portrait. It is this, along with the etching made by Van de Velde, which led to the true identity of the piece being unearthed. I feel that the journey which I've been on with Hals and Verdonck allows me to more fully appreciate this piece. Initially, Hals himself did not reveal the identity of the sitter, and so I was forced to make my own opinion on him. My opinion was then changed due to the repainting of the piece. However, When the identity of the sitter was exposed and the alterations removed, it became apparent to me that Hals himself, and no one else, could properly convey the character of his friend, Verdonck. When I look at the painting now, I am still struck by this intriguingly mischievous and eccentric man, except now I'm also reminded of the incredible story which this painting has been on. Thank you.
Sophie, with Frans Hals. I loved the idea of reinvestigating this notion of the studio painter. I love the idea of, is it a smirk or is it a grin underneath the moustache? I thought that was a lovely, trying to describe a painting by what we can't see rather than what we can see. And I thought your presentation was kind of humorous, which I thought was a brave thing to do, and I think you did that really successfully.